Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are here to do a SmackDown recap that took place on March 28th, 2025, at the O2 Arena in London. The show kicks off with Cody Rhodes. Great ovation from the crowd, per usual, as this European tour comes to a close on the preceding Monday. Cody gets down to the ring, but is quickly interrupted by Randy Orton. Did not see that one coming, but Randy gets emotional, as he calls it, and compliments Cody, tells him it took massive courage to leave the company and do what he did, and basically tells him we're friends now. But eventually, he's going to be wanting that 15th title. He's chasing, just like John's chasing 17, but that he wouldn't low blow him. He would look him straight into the eye because of the respect that Randy has for Cody. They're then interrupted by Drew McIntyre, who notes the Nepo baby sitting in the ring and tries to recall when Randy earned a shot at the title. The only thing he recalls is Randy being on the shelf for a very long period of time. Um, and then goes on to tell Randy to get back in the back of the line. This was an interesting promo. It did feel like a bit of filler, simply because clearly John isn't here. So this was the next best thing, I suppose. And the silver lining here being that it gave us a match between Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton. So yeah, it was what it was. Getting these three guys to kick off the show isn't the worst thing in the world, but it certainly caused a bit of a head scratch to figure out why they went this way. I guess to keep Cody fresh on our mind. We then go on to Pretty Deadly and the Street Profits, who this one would be for the tag team titles. Pretty Deadly is earned number one contender, and yeah, here is the fallout. Pretty competitive match for how short it was. Um, the shocking result to me was Pretty Deadly losing and clean for as long as they've been pushed. Pretty Deadly felt like they had the most momentum of all the tag teams. I think you could argue, and the crowd obviously was very behind. We had the UK themed gear as well. But yeah, they lost clean in what felt like a pretty quick match. So that was interesting, an interesting decision. And I thought here, and we see this theme throughout the night, lacking clean finishes for the matches. And I thought for sure this would be the one match that would obviously have a finish that wasn't clean, and that one of the other 15 tag teams in this rivalry, in this division, would come here and allow both to remain unscathed, if you will, in terms of momentum. Um, but yeah, that's not what they did. So yeah, but another bit of a head scratcher here. I had no doubt that they'll find their way to get multiple teams in the title shot or title match at Mania. But it just they have an interesting decision here. I thought to have Pretty Deadly lose clean. We then go what ends up kind of merging into a match, but we see a backstage segment with Chelsea Green and Alba getting into a verbal altercation with Caden and Katana. Both sides accompanied by Zelina Vega, and then Chelsea Green makes her way into the picture as well. Then this ends up being Piper and Alba getting in a match with the aforementioned Caden and uh, Carter. Excuse me, Caden and Katana. Yeah, this is a pretty expected result in Piper getting the win from the Piper driver. Yet another win for Piper, who is heating up rather quickly lately. But yeah, more of the same. Don't have a ton to add to this one, except for the fact that everything Chelsea and the Secret Harvest is doing over there. Um, I'm loving it, and Selena Vega seems to be eyeing still Chelsea Green. So yeah, we'll see. I obviously the odds are stacked against her. I don't think she's the right person to take the title off of Chelsea. Um, but Alba and Piper are certainly holding their end of the bargain in that faction, and arguably one of the best factions in WWE right now. But yeah, Zelina comes down after the match to try to help, and the numbers game is just too much. So we'll see where they take that one from here. Earlier, I mentioned the number of matches that didn't have a clean finish, and this is just one of them. What starts as a Braun Strowman versus LA Knight match for the U.S. Championship, which they took a couple weeks to have Braun Strowman earn that. Jacob Fatu cuts this one short by attacking Braun Strowman. Jacob is left standing tall, and the match I don't feel like was long enough. It was entertaining for what it was, but obviously cut short by Jacob's interference. And to me, the backstage segment with Solo, which basically continued the friction between the two of them. And Jacob says he's going to bring that U.S. title home, and no matter what he has to do, bring that home for the family. So I thought the segment was very much better than the match. So yeah, that was more entertaining than the match for me. So a lot going on in the first half of SmackDown. Some interesting results. And KP, what were your thoughts on the opening promo and the matches that took place after?
Yeah, in terms of the way SmackDown started, I quite liked Randy getting involved, getting up in the face of Cody Rhodes. I thought the interaction between the two of them was quite interesting. I think a lot of people have wanted to see Cody Rhodes go one-on-one with Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. So whether we're getting teased about this possibly happen down the road, who knows? Obviously, good. Cody Rhodes has got John Cena to look at first. But yeah, maybe this is a little bit of a hint as to maybe what could come down at some point eventually. Either way, I'm keen for it. We didn't get to see too much of these two before Drew McIntyre got involved. But naturally, Drew is looking to continue staying in that main event picture as much as he can. He's been sort of away from the scene a little bit recently with Damian Priest, and maybe a little bit more on that later on. But I enjoyed the interaction between these two. It was nice to see, these two getting in the face of one another and maybe planting seeds going forward. The Street Profits and Pretty Deadly match was kind of interesting to me. You mentioned a good point about how, Pretty Deadly losing clean was an interesting call. I'd agree with that. I think that, Pretty Deadly were on a roll recently and they were getting some real momentum. Obviously, getting themselves into a tag team championship opportunity, speaks for what they've been achieving recently. And now for them to effectively be removed from the title picture, if that is to be the case, I think maybe is a little bit of a slap to the face for these guys going into WrestleMania, considering how close we are to the grandest stage of them all now. Obviously, there's so many questions still to be answered regarding the tag team division on SmackDown as to whether we'll see this, that, and the other team being involved with the Street Profits. But right now, I think the work of Pretty Deadly has been really, really good. They put on a good match here against Street Profits, as I think I kind of expected. And yeah, the crowd were definitely behind them, which was lovely to see, being obviously in London, England. But yeah, the right result, I think, personally. But maybe I think there could have been something involved here, some sort of trickery from some other team. I hope this isn't the last that we see a Pretty Deadly in the title picture. In the next few weeks. Hopefully, we do see them again at some point soon. In some sort of chaotic match going into WrestleMania. It's what I want, it's what I think a lot of other people want, and hopefully we do get something like that. But the Street Profits, it's good to see them getting defenses under their belt, and just sort of like making a good start to their title reign here. We want to see a good run for the Street Profits. That's ideally what we want, and I guess it makes them look pretty good, which is ideally the big goal here going forward for them. Going into what happened next, obviously the tag team match between Caden Carter, Katana Chance, and the Secret Hervis. I have been full of adulation for everything that Chelsea Green has brought to the US Championship since picking it up, and obviously Secret Service as well being involved in that alongside her. I think has been really, really great, and this is no exception, really. I think that for them to have lost to Katana and Caden, I think would have been a step backwards. They seem to be picking up a little bit of a streak here, getting pretty dominant. And if Zelina is the one to take on Chelsea Green, possibly at WrestleMania, possibly on SmackDown leading to WrestleMania. They've been putting title matches on willy-nilly recently, so who knows when it could happen. I think at the moment I'm very keen to keep Chelsea as the champion. Don't think Zelina is the right choice to replace her and to dethrone her as the women's champion, the United States women's champion. But I think everything that they're doing at the moment is good. I think they're looking dominant, they're looking strong. Like, Alba coming back in and sitting in this position now alongside Piper Niven and Chelsea Green. I think she's essentially just fitting really seamlessly here. So I'm really happy to see how she's getting on there. The two Scots helping out the US Women's Champion. I think it's been a great thing so far. And the match was quite fun. I enjoyed it enough as it could be. And just sort of like basically cemented themselves as a real dominant force going forward here. Speaking of dominant forces, Jacob Fatu. Really wasn't keen on this, not gonna lie. So the match itself was kind of decent before Jacob Fatu got involved. LA Knight versus Braun Strowman for the United Championship. Yeah, it had a good feel to it. And then Braun was going around for that, Strowman Express, whatever he calls it. And Jacob just taking him out and causing disqualification. I don't know. I just feel like that we're doing this so much at the moment, right? It's just so common. I mean, you mentioned that there have been DQ finishes and whatever finishes like similar to this quite often recently. I agree with you. Singing off the same hymn sheet there. It's just, I don't know. It feels a bit lazy. I don't know if that's the right word, but it kind of feels like it. I feel like there are other ways to end these matches. You don't have to just do like someone comes in and just takes out both men and then ultimately stands tall at the end, which is what happened here. Every time Jacob Fatu comes in, he looks strong as hell. He looks dominant. He looks like a force to be reckoned with. And that's exactly what he's been built around. That's absolutely fine. But I don't know, to just do this in title matches and whatever, I think takes away from what the match could be. And maybe they're putting Jacob Fatu and his dominance over the value of the title matches themselves. I don't know. Maybe that's a crazy thing to say, but it kind of feels like it. But regarding what happened, Jacob Fatu, looking impressive again, looking dominant, looking forceful. He lays out Braun Strowman and LA Knight, especially Braun Strowman in the ring before he stands tall at the end of the segment. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not really keen on these finishes. They're so common recently. Let's do something a little bit different. Let's mix things up. I'll be more happy with that. But right now, they're getting a little bit old, and that's not what we want. But yeah, maybe a little bit of an up and down start here, bits here and there. But overall, not a bad start to SmackDown. I thought it was decent.
Yeah, the U.S. title picture especially, but a lot of these feuds, we feel like we've seen the same thing. I think inevitably what this has just been caused by is that longer build because it's a push to Mania. But with that, we carry on. Before we get the Meechin and Charlotte match, we have a backstage pre-recorded segment with Naomi, who arguably cuts one of the best promos I think I've ever seen from her. This was kind of the first big heel, actually felt like a heel promo. And granted, being pre-recorded obviously helps her in that regard. But her logic is basically what she goes down and explains why she did what she did, and it kind of made sense. But this heel promo was great, and this is what I've been begging from and for to see from this feud is Naomi showing some sort of heel tactics, and even from that, she attacks Meechin and BFAB as they make their way out to the ring for the match with Charlotte. So finally making sense of the heel persona, because you really hadn't seen much from her since Jade's been back. It's been Jade attacking Naomi, which is, a bit off. But I think the only issue that could potentially cause is with Jade being still pretty green in the ring and facing Naomi, who can hold her own. as the face, or excuse me, as the heel. I think this could turn out to be an interesting combination in terms of who the crowd actually roots for, assuming we're getting this blow off at Mania. So we'll see where that one goes. As for the match itself, Michin and Charlotte Flair, this obviously Charlotte Flair winning was the right call, and I don't think anyone would have expected anything different. But the fact that Michin got attacked beforehand by Charlotte would make you think that Charlotte would handle this pretty easily, but she doesn't. It's pretty back and forth, 50-50. Um, and kind of made Charlotte look a little weak because even though Michin was attacked, she still couldn't put her away. And Michin got in plenty of offense, which interesting enough, but maybe we're just reading too much into that, but didn't feel like that how it should have played out. After the match, we cut to a Tiffany Stratton promo, and she basically runs down Charlotte saying, I think this, by the way, I think this was their attempt to uh, make her look strong after the two had a promo last week, and Tiffany did not look good at all, and Charlotte did not hold back. But I think this was their attempt to right that ship, if you will. And Tiffany basically said, Charlotte's won with everything to lose. If I lose to Charlotte, the future Hall of Famer, no big deal. But if Charlotte loses to me, she loses to this undeserving copycat form that is Tiffany Stratton. So a good point there. And my favorite thing about this promo is it felt like she was kind of going back to form. It felt like she was going back to how she was before Charlotte declared her as the title she was going for. Felt like that what used to be a heel persona. She had some attitude, she had some sass. But this was a great promo, probably the best one she's cut since Charlotte has challenged her. So I like this direction. This is what I've been asking for. Just because she's the face now doesn't mean she can't still have that attitude to her. So hopefully they continue with that going forward. We then get the Randy Orton Drew McIntyre match, which developed from the promo that kicked off the night. Um, Yeah, more of the same. Unfortunately, this was a good match, and the crowd was obviously very into it, as they should be, with the guys in the ring. But KO came down in the ring, and that absolutely baffled Randy Orton. How could his opponent be walking down the ramp? We were so close to Mania season, and obviously Drew McIntyre capitalizes, gets the win, and then Randy and Kevin get into a bit of a scuffle. And as Randy is yet again attempting the punt, Kevin runs off, which I think ensures two things. Randy will absolutely get a punt on Kevin at Mania. And here we are with another. Technically, the clean was finished, or the finish was clean. But yeah, the distraction there. So more of the same. And but Drew getting win was nice over Randy. So that helped. That helped, I guess, get through the segment for me. But not much else to say on that one. In between the next match, we get an official announcement that Ray Phoenix will be debuting on SmackDown next week. So that is exciting. For obvious reasons, I'm glad that Ray is not on Raw as Penta is. I think CLWO is, and as to why I'm glad that didn't happen that way, because I feel like eventually they all kind of get lumped together. But then we have the match, Jimmy Uso versus The Miz, which stemmed from a promo earlier. Jimmy Uso's backstage, and The Miz and Carmelo Hayes, mostly The Miz, can be seen mocking Jimmy. And this leads to a pretty decent match, I guess. Pretty pretty long. I'm not sure the point of it overall. Um, Evenly matched, and Jimmy gets the win. So yeah, don't have a ton more to say on that one. But in between this match and the next match, we have Damian Priest, who's backstage, who's being interviewed, and basically says, "Hey, look, guys, when interference isn't costing me matches and that sort of thing, We won't mention the interference got him the match, allowed him to win the match. But he basically says, when no one interferes with me, I win and I am one of the best in the business. Um, and also runs down Damien, says he couldn't even show his face today. Shortly after that, he does end up showing his face, and him and Drew get into a backstage scuffle where Damian Priest stands tall and ends up slamming Drew McIntyre into a car windshield, cracked it pretty good. And the end of that segment has Drew crying that he had glass in his eye. So Damian Priest finally getting a bit of comeuppance there and continuing on with that feud. And the main event uh, promo, if you will, I think very few promos are worthy of ending a show. That being said, I think this one fit the bill. I'm sure the UK crowd there got something after this, um, but I thought this was incredible. The main takeaways here is Roman full on, eating up the crowd. And I think that's when Roman is at his best as this tribal chief gimmick continues. He said he came here to do two things: to be acknowledged, and well, they've done that, and to sign the contract. And as he's finishing off the last item of that list, he's interrupted by Seth Rollins, who goes on to talk about their history and saying that he's here yet again to clean up the mess. CM Punk then comes out looking through the contract and appears to be looking for something. And Paul says, or Roman asks Paul to help him out. Um, and Paul comes over and says, I know what you're looking for. And he says, you are main eventing WrestleMania. This is pretty shocking. I think there are definitely people out there saying this should be the main event, but in terms of WWE actually, doing this segment and announcing that, it's pretty incredible. Um, but yeah, this promo was everything I think we could have hoped for. And as of this moment, this was better than any promo that Cena and Cody had cut so far, in my opinion. Um, and to end the segment, Punk goes, "That's great. Thanks for the help, but this isn't the favor I'm owed." And that's the end of SmackDown. And yeah, what a segment that was. You really felt the emotion from all three of these guys, especially Punk. You could tell that the line was being blurred a bit in terms of reality, that he finally getting the opportunity to main event. Love him or hate him, can't deny that he is the needle mover. So yeah, that was a great segment. So KP, what are your thoughts here? The continued finishes that we kind of mentioned, not being clean, and the Charlotte and Tiffany promo, and then for whatever reason the Jimmy versus the Miz. Um, Perhaps seeing some effects of both an extended build to Mania and maybe the 3 hour SmackDown sometimes giving us these weird matches. But what were your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I'll agree that we can sometimes get some little off matches here and there to sort of like maybe like fill time, I suppose, going into WrestleMania. It is a long build. You need moments where you're gonna have to sort of like build things here and there, just to sort of like fill the gaps. And I feel like there were definitely moments in the past, like I want to say like 2 or 3 shows where we've seen those. More on that a little bit later on. Yeah, regarding Michin and Charlotte, I thought the match was pretty solid. To be fair, I actually, I was quite impressed with Michin. I think although she hasn't really got a lot of wins under her belt since, I don't know, like re-emerging and sort of like a talent here on SmackDown. The OC have gone. Only really AJ Styles remains, and he's over on Monday Night Raw. But she's sort of split from that. She's going alone now, separately. I feel like since then she's done really well at selling herself, and her feud with Chelsea Green, I think, helped her along that. But a solid match here, a solid enough match against Charlotte Flair. That's never something to be to be disheartened about. and to shy away from. So yeah, pushing Charlotte to certain limits, it's always a good thing. And yeah, I thought the match was pretty decent. Obviously, Charlotte's going to win the contest. No one's ever going to expect Michin to beat Charlotte, but yeah, she's picking up huge momentum going into WrestleMania. Her match against Tiffany Stratton has been very much dominated in terms of like momentum and recent sort of performances by the Queen. And yeah, Tiff's got a fair bit of work to do still, because week after week it does seem to be that Charlotte just keeps on progressing. Yeah, we had the Tiff promo, and that seemed to be pretty decent enough, trying to recover from the mishaps of last week. And I feel like she did a good job recovering from that herself. So a little bit of damage control there from Tiff. Very much needed damage control. And just basically getting herself back into a little bit of a bigger picture going into that WrestleMania match with Charlotte Flair. But yeah, she spoke from the heart. She did a very good job at proving that it's all to lose for Charlotte and all to gain here really for Tiffany Stratton. I thought it was a great way of swerving things around, putting the pressure on Charlotte, and Tiff's just basically there for the ride and just just to try and shock the world basically. So I'm seated. I want to see some shocks. The match between Drew and Randy, yeah, I mean, these guys have got good chemistry in the ring, haven't they? They did well enough given the time they were given. Two solid workers in the ring, and up until the Kevin Owens interference, the distraction, it was a pretty decent encounter between the two men, and it was always going to be. You put two guys like this in the middle of the ring, they're going to deliver a big Kevin Owens obviously getting involved, yeah, that heated feud with himself and Randy Orton, it's going to go into WrestleMania, and you said it yourself. Maybe there's a punt with Kevin's name on it at WrestleMania waiting for him. I'd be inclined to agree with that, perhaps. Whether it's going to be before or after the match, obviously, we can go from there. But yeah, I think we definitely could be in line to see something like that for the first time in a very, very long time. We haven't seen the punt in a good few years, so yeah, possibly so. But yeah, Drew getting a big win, chuffed to bits for him. Very, very happy to see him actually get a victory over someone very good like Randy Orton. That's huge. So yeah, he can take that going into WrestleMania with Damian Priest, and hopefully, go from there. But yeah, enjoy the match for what it was. That that extra added influence at the end. We talk about them a lot. I feel like this one wasn't so bad because at least the match did end. It wasn't a DQ, but it was outside interference that gets involved once more. Now we got the fill of it. So Jimmy and The Miz, yeah, it seemed very just because why not, That's essentially the main sort of summary I can give for this. Let's just squeeze Jimmy Uso in with a match against The Miz just because we can. And there's nothing wrong with that, for a little bit of time, get Jimmy involved, Big Jim. And let's see what you can do against The Miz. It was a decent enough match, It wasn't anything sort of like top tier, but it was enough to make Big Jim sort of, pride himself up, build some momentum for himself. He goes into a match against Gunter on Monday, so obviously that's going to be big for him to sort of like rally into, get in the mood for that big match. The slap heard around the world. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit more about that come Monday Night Raw. But yeah, good win for Jimmy. Miz looked decent enough as always, as he always does. Very consistent performer. And yeah, Jimmy goes into that big match with Gunter with a win. And then the main event, you described it as I think you said perfect or something along those lines. It was very, very good. I will agree with that. It was brilliant. Like you said, not many promos will deserve to main event a show, but this one absolutely did. I completely agree with you. I think it had a lot. It had emotion. It had a little hint at the very end. It had moments of just awesomeness in terms of like the crowd just warming to each and every single one of these guys. I mean, they had. The crowd were chanting Roman Reigns. They were acknowledging him. They were singing Seth's song. They were singing CM Punk's song. They were chanting for all three men. It was literally just the crowd just serenading each and every single one of them one by one. It was quite interesting, a vibe, to be fair. No one really that's hated involved in this position, which is quite unique with a triple threat match at WrestleMania, which is going to now main event, one of the nights. Obviously, I'm assuming it's going to be night one. But yeah, no one getting booed. All three getting serenaded and cheered, and it's quite the interesting situation. But when you got these three guys, delivering something like this, with a little twist at the end with Punk saying, thanks for the help, appreciate it, my tribal chief, but that's not the favor. it just puts that next little element on top to think, well, if that's not the favor, what is the favor then? What could possibly be coming next? We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, the contract's been signed. It's going to be main eventing one night. And yeah, I'm very, very keen for this one. One of the matches that I'm really, really looking forward to over the weekend, probably maybe at the moment my most looking forward to match. I don't know. It possibly John Cena and Cody Rhodes. But yeah, either way, it's definitely up there with the biggest attractions of WrestleMania weekend, which is awesome to see. And yeah, Punk, maybe blurring the lines, getting a little bit emotional. Nothing wrong with that. It means a lot to the guy. He's worked very hard throughout his career. Probably should have main evented a while ago. Didn't get the opportunity. Went away, come back, and is now, getting a swan song and given the opportunity to do that. I don't like the guy, but I can appreciate the hard work that he put in, years and years ago, that ultimately probably should have led him to a WrestleMania main event. So fair enough. I give it to all three of these, man. Seth literally just main evented last year for the first time. Now getting Punk main eventing. Roman's been and done that how many times? He gets to do it again. He is that guy. This has a special feel to it, this triple threat. I'm very, very excited for it. But yeah, the SmackDown was a decent show. There were some good moments throughout the night, maybe some ups and downs for sure, some question marks over some certain segments. But no, I think it was a pretty solid show. The crowd helped out with that as well, making things loud when they needed to, and yeah, it was a decent enough show. I think I give this one a 7.5 out of 10. I wouldn't say anything like incredible happened, but the main event was brilliant. It was beautiful. So yeah, I think that was the highlight of the show for me in terms of everything that took place. But yeah, 7.5, maybe even an 8, perhaps. I don't know. Actually, yeah, change it to an 8. I think it was a really good show. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the SmackDown. It was a really good watch.
It's uncanny how many times we come up with the same rating. Also gave this one an 8. Yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag, I felt like overall, but the highs very much outweighed the lows. The lows just being a bit of head scratchers in terms of, the dirty finishes, and then the one match that would have made a lot of sense didn't get one in the Pretty Deadly Street Profits match. But I think overall for me, the promos kind of saved this, which is crazy to say, but Naomi getting a big heel promo in, Jacob with his promo backstage with Solo, Tiffany kind of helped riding her ship, and then obviously the Punk Roman Seth being one of the best promos for the Mania that we've seen so far. So yeah, with that, we are down to 3 weeks of shows left to WrestleMania, and it's what a roller coaster ride it's been so far. I think WWE is probably taking some notes in terms of how this has gone in terms of the build. Obviously, have those few extra weeks to account for. Any other year, it would be around this time, last weekend, this coming weekend, where we would be having Mania, but we still have 2 more weeks after that. So hopefully we live and learn. But yeah, it feels like the speed to Mania has increased, and the intensity from WWE is kicking back into a higher gear, if you will. So, with that, this has been another episode of The Push. Let us know in the comments below if you disagree with anything we're putting out there, or like what we're putting out there. Just let us know, and any engagement helps us continue to grow. And with that, we will be back with another episode of Raw recap in just a few days. And until then, we'll see you then. Bye bye.